Why did your school risk multiple lives? When the first bang cracked through our cafeteria, all 300 of us knew it wasn't a firecracker. 4 more bangs followed, and I watched 2 teachers sprint past our windows with pure terror on their faces. Vice Principal Warner grabbed the microphone and his voice boomed, "Nobody moves. It's just senior prank week nonsense." Mrs. Crawford lunged for the lockdown button in the corner of the cafeteria, but the principal physically blocked her, his face going purple as he screamed about his 20 years in education. The exit was right there, 20 feet away, but we all sat frozen because this man 5 more shots exploded outside, and car alarms started shrieking in the parking lot. Everyone hit the floor while Warner forced this awful laugh through the microphone, but I watched a dark stain spreading across his gray shirt, and his hands were trembling so bad the mic kept hitting his teeth. My friend shoved her phone in my face and my stomach just dropped. 23 texts from her mom, all caps, because Channel 4 was broadcasting active attack at local high school, with our school's name right there on the screen. Our parents were watching this happen live while we sat trapped like idiots. Kids everywhere were curled under tables reading the same desperate messages from their families. I saw one kid's dad was spam texting him. Another girl was shaking so hard she couldn't type back. Warner's walkie was screaming static, and I heard someone yell, "Code red, this is real," before he twisted it silent. The girl near me had snot running down her face from crying so hard, and a freshman threw up into his lunch tray. The smell made 3 more kids gag. Then came the screaming from outside, not movie screaming, but raw animal terror that made my skin crawl. We could hear car doors slamming and engines starting and tires squealing as people fled the parking lot. Someone was yelling for help right outside our windows, but we couldn't see them. The fire alarm in the math building started going off, adding to the chaos. Mrs. Crawford planted herself by the lockdown button, and when Warner pointed at her with a shaking finger, she crossed her arms like a wall. The fear in his eyes told me he knew he'd lost control, but his pride wouldn't let him admit we were in danger. Footsteps thundered past our doors, not walking, not jogging, but full speed running like their lives depended on it. We heard classroom doors slamming all down the hallway and someone crying as they ran. A kid pressed against the window went sheet white and screamed, "Oh my God!" Mrs. Crawford didn't hesitate. She drove her palm into that lockdown button so hard the whole panel cracked. The doors sealed with this pneumatic hiss and darkness swallowed us instantly. Warner was screaming she was fired, but his voice cracked like a teenager's and she was already a blur, yanking kids under tables, using her whole body to shield us from the windows. I crawled through somebody's spilled chocolate milk, my knees sliding in it, while the shots outside got so loud I could hear car windows exploding. Glass was raining down in the parking lot. Warner kept babbling into his dead microphone about senior pranks, but spit was flying from his mouth and his eyes had gone wild. A girl near me was hyperventilating so bad someone had to cover her mouth to keep her quiet. We could hear sirens now, lots of them, getting closer but still too far away. Then my blood turned to ice. Someone was attacking our door handles, yanking them violently, over and over. The metal groaned under the force. They kicked the door 3 times, each impact making everyone flinch. We could hear breathing on the other side, heavy and angry. Warner bolted for the exit, but Mrs. Crawford clotheslined him, and 3 football players made a human barricade. "Let me out! I need to get out!" he screamed, clawing at them while those handles kept rattling like something rabid trying to break in. His fingernails actually drew blood on one kid's arm, but they didn't budge. When Warner collapsed sobbing about this not being real, saying this couldn't happen here, not at our school, we all understood he'd gambled our lives to protect his ego. The rattling stopped. Footsteps ran away. We stayed frozen under those tables for 30 minutes, while Mrs. Crawford held the override button so nobody could unlock our doors even with a master key. When the SWAT team finally knocked, they told us they'd caught the shooter in the woods, a kid Warner had expelled last year. The second our doors opened, Warner bolted for the parking lot. He made it 10 feet before the shooter twisted free from the cops and shot him in the leg. Warner went down screaming. They tackled the assailant immediately, but Warner's artery was hit. He survived, but never walked right again. The investigation was worse than the attack itself. 17 declined emergency calls on Warner's phone. He'd muted his walkie so we wouldn't hear the warnings. He'd risked 300 students to avoid looking stupid during senior prank week, so they arrested him while he was still in his hospital bed.